Hey everybody, so what I'm going to do with you today is share with you an activist tool. It's called power mapping, and what it does is it's kind of self-explanatory. It maps out power, um, and although that sounds kind of vague in general, you'll understand it as soon as I show it to you. And I'm just going to dive right in with a really specific and concrete example, which is a fossil fuel divestment campaign on the municipal or city level. And I'm going to choose that one just because it's something I have experience with. And I have experience with some other stuff as well, but it's something that I probably have the most experience with from a few years ago. So diving right in, so I'm going to say, let's say my target is my city council. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this general your target thing here. And I'm sorry with GIMP, I don't use it a whole lot, so I might kind of screw up here and there. I'm going to go with city council. Okay, this always messes me up because it'll move. Damn it. Yeah, it always does that. Shift, does that work? Okay, I have to hold shift. Sorry. Okay, so city council. City council is my target. And but I'm gonna break that down further. Let's say I have 5 city council members. Um, 5 members. And so I actually need just 3 out of 5 to get a majority vote on this fossil fuel divestment campaign. Like let's say they have like a $1 million set of investments in fossil fuels total, like Exxon, Shell, like whatever. Um, so I would actually want to map out um, uh, so let's see, like city council member. That's what that's going to stand for. City council member Biden. We're gonna say they're really conservative. They always vote poorly on environmental stuff, so they're gonna be against me. I know like no matter what I do, they're gonna they're gonna vote no on a resolution to divest. So right, so they're not for me in my campaign. They're against me. And do they have no influence? No, that they have a lot of influence, right? Because they're actually on the council. Their vote is really powerful. So city council member Biden's gonna go over there. I'm gonna go with City Council Member Gomez. She's super on board. In fact, she's so on board that when I emailed her and then she emailed back really quick and she's like, "Hey, let's get coffee." She's super cool. She said, "Fuck yeah, let's talk strategy. I'll even help you with your strategy. I'll tell you how everybody in the council would vote, and I'll help you power map." And this is actually something that happened in a past campaign. That's how cool this particular council member was. She was really cool. So we already know she's for us. She will vote yes. In fact, she might even introduce the resolution. And then we have council member uh, uh, Harrison. Yeah, I don't know. And we're actually not sure against us or for us. We haven't really talked to them yet. We have to do a little more research on their voting history, like how do they vote on environmental things and social justice things. And this is where our messaging so far is actually, it's like climate change is a big deal, but it's also like climate change is racist because climate change is impacting people of color, the global south disproportionately. So we're going to put them in the middle, right? They don't have no influence. They're still very high influence. So they go up here. And then we have city council member uh, um, uh, Topanga. Um, and they're somewhere over here. We're pretty sure. We're not 100% sure. And somebody who's like kind of on the fence, we need to do more research on. City council member, give me a name. What? Uh, ba, Santo Bradley. Yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a name. They're somewhere over here. So, all right. So now we can actually. I'm gonna get rid of this whole thing because now we have like really specific names. So, in the no influence section, I'm gonna throw a couple like curveballs at you. So my next door neighbor, um, because like this is something to think about. Like, does my next door neighbor actually have no influence? It depends. So my next door neighbor could send an email to the whole council. And in that case, and let's say they're on my side, like they put like they have like a bumper sticker that says anyone but Trump 2020 or something like that, and you're like, okay, they're all liberal, they care about climate change or something. So they're actually they're for my cause and my group's cause. It's not just me doing this. I'm working with a group. They're over here somewhere. How much influence do they have? Well, if they're just an everyday person like me, they're not like way up here. But since they might, let's say they can send an email, send a postcard, they'll send an email once a week, they'll even make calls. Let's say they're actually part of like a local environmental group. Uh, they sit on a board of an environmental nonprofit. Like they could be somewhere up here. I'm not quite sure. So don't ever think like your next door neighbor or like stereotype them. You might look at them and go like dumb libs if you're all radical, or you just really don't know. So I'm throwing this as a curveball in that you really don't know until you talk to somebody. I'm going to say hypothetically they're somewhere over here, um, uh, assuming they're on my side. Uh, I'm also going to go, let's see, no influence, some fifth grader. So like some kid in fifth grade that he's like 10 years old. Obviously no influence, right? If that fifth grader goes to a city council meeting and is like, has some dope speech that they write, um, I mean, that could actually go viral if they're like, you're destroying my future. They could have a huge influence. In fact, they could like amplify your movement. So again, don't assume like that little kid you saw walking down the street is not helpful to your campaign. They could actually have tremendous power, and you might want to talk to that kid. I don't know. It depends on your organizing style and your skill set and everything. I'm gonna like throw it up here. Some fifth grader. Um, let's see. Some fishermen in uh, Guatemala. Uh, so I'm throwing like pretty random things in here on purpose just to open up the conversation. No influence on like my local city council and like which is some city in the United States. Again, that really depends. Is this guy like against me? I don't know. I've never talked to this person. This is like literally a random person on the other side of the world. So like realistically, they don't even belong on the equation. I would probably throw this under no influence, although you could say, let's say something in Guatemala is getting screwed over because of climate change. Your next door neighbor happens to be Guatemalan and his cousin is this fisherman, and they really take climate change seriously. You can kind of see where I'm going with that, right? And like this guy makes some video on Facebook, it goes viral. It says, Councilmember Biden, you're a total shithead. How could you possibly consider voting no on divestment? You're destroying my livelihood as a fisherman or something like that, right? Maybe you'd have a lot of influence. So I'm gonna throw it up there. But getting a little bit more like realistic, like taking the curveballs out, I'm gonna throw local Republican Party in there because they're probably against this. That just, from my experience, they're against us, and at least where I live, the local Republican Party doesn't have a lot of sway, but let's just say in your area they do. They can get turnout if they hear there's going to be a council meeting on this or something, or you're going to bring your people out to a council meeting, and they have a whole bunch of like old white retired business owners who can like show up to the meeting before you to say, this is, I don't know. Alex Jones told me climate change is turning the frogs gay. I don't know. They might be up here somewhere. So you might want to take them seriously. They don't have as much influence as these people, but they don't have no influence. Let's actually put them up here. Local Republican Party. Um, what about teachers union? I actually found from personal experience, at least in my area, the teachers union, like the president of the teachers union, and most people that he knew were definitely for this cause. Um, and they would have had some influence if they signed onto a petition, but and they probably would have had, I mean, some influence because they're a teachers union, and they actually probably contributed to some campaigns for these city council members. But this dude was like, we don't work on like random political stuff, and I can kind of see how this does affect us on some level, but this also might cut into like some kind of public pension thing or whatever, and it got dicey, and so he said, I support you like in theory, and like as an individual, I can email these folks and say I support the divestment thing. So they're definitely not on that side. They're definitely on this side, but where are they in terms of influence? Well, the teachers union itself, hypothetically, could have some significant influence. Um, they're probably not going to really sign on. I'm going to throw them like over there, and I have to consider realistically, like, how much should I put them in the equation? So getting even more realistic and concrete, environmental groups. Environmental groups. All the environmental groups in town. There's a handful. Um, they're super on board. Uh, Definitely put them in the equation. Um, Racial justice groups. Um, I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm a white male, and I work on a lot of climate stuff. And I've built some relationships with some racial justice groups, not any super great relationships. I'm not like the perfect ally or whatever. I don't show up to everything racial justice related. So a lot of like people of color led orgs might look at me and go, he's cool. I don't really know about that divestment shit. Like, we're kind of concerned with the cops and tenants' rights issues and immigrant stuff. And like, so they're like, yeah, we're for you, but I don't know how much we're going to throw down. We definitely have influence. Um, I'm gonna throw them in here somewhere, I guess. It's hard to say. I'm gonna throw them in there. Um, let's see. We're gonna go. Here's getting like really, really specific. So, campaign donors. This refers to specifically the campaign donors for all of these, all of these people. And in fact, Councilmember Gomez is the one who told me to think about this. They said, okay, so Councilmember Harrison, one of their biggest campaign donors, actually lives next door to you. Did you know that? Yeah. Since like I told Gomez where I live, the neighborhood, she said, dude, your next door neighbor, um, he doesn't seem like he has that much money, but he lives a humble life and he has quite a bit of money and he donates a lot to Harrison every campaign. And he literally just like he will t tell Harrison kind of what to do. He donates like over $10,000 every year. It really helps him out. So he actually has a lot of influence over Harrison. And since Harrison's like a swing vote, that's super important. So who is this campaign donor person? Let's say their name's uh, Bob. Um, so they're actually like somewhere in the middle. They're not quite sure about the divestment thing, but they have huge influence. So they're up here. We'll say they're slightly on our side. Gomez then says, yeah, so they're your neighbor. Let's take that back. Let's say they're not my neighbor, but let's say they're best friends with the owner of the bar called the Hot Spot. Uh, so, uh, and like that's where me and Gomez, we got coffee, and then later I saw him at this bar. We're hanging out there with their friends. Council members do that kind of stuff. If you ever get into this stuff, like you'll find they just do normal stuff kind of most of the time. Unless you're in like a super big city, maybe they go to bougie stuff only. So this person's really good friends with the campaign donor, and you realize you're chopping it up with the owner, and you realize they're super cool. You start getting political when you're drunk, and they're like, "Yeah, man, fuck the fossil fuel industry." So they're definitely way over here. They definitely have a lot of influence because they can super duper influence this campaign donor, who influences Harrison. I'm gonna put them up there. I'm gonna talk to them. Okay. you can kind of see how this keeps going. Oil workers union. So, labor and environment are sometimes like opposed, right? Like this is something that's in flux right now, I think. Like the Green New Deal stuff that's been going down. But oil workers union, they're probably against us. They probably believe the talking points of their bosses, and they're actually really afraid. Like the more you divest and the more you demonize this industry without giving us a pathway toward a different kind of job, we're against you, and we have a lot of power. So they're over here. For now, unfortunately, we have not figured out a way out of that problem. And then lastly, I will put, why is that not working? Okay. Let's say, um, state senator. Um, I'm actually say for this particular campaign, they surprisingly don't have a lot of influence. Maybe if they like tweeted out, I hope that such and such city divests because it's the right thing to do. It might give you some help here, like even if they're on your side, but it might not really influence any of them more than like local campaign donors, environmental groups, teachers union, racial justice groups, local kids who do something for a social studies class, or maybe fifth graders don't have those. But so that's a good question, like how much influence do they really have? I kind of think it wouldn't be that much. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can get creative. So from here, you start to understand your who should you be targeting, you know? Um, if you just need 3 votes, let's say need 3 votes, have 2, need 1 more. Um, then uh, then you have Gomez for sure. You're pretty sure with Topanga. So like Harrison's the main one you got to work on. Then uh Harrison's like your main target, honestly. Um, how do you do this? Fill with foreground color? No, fill with background color. Oops. Well, um, fill with foreground color. Boop. Never mind. Okay. Um, so anyway, that's some power mapping for you. Okay, bye. Oh, let me know if this was helpful at all. If I should do something that's a little more cleaned up or official. Um, yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and all that. All right, have a good night.